A waitress, a mobster. One choice that changes everything. Some people run from their past. Emery Vale became a ghost because of hers. But on one rain-soaked Brooklyn night, 4 men walked into her diner, and one whispered phone call shattered 3 years of silence. Now the woman who witnessed her brother's murder must choose. Stay invisible and let history repeat itself, or step into the crosshairs to save a stranger who might be her only way out. One warning, one receipt, one decision that will either bury her forever or set her free. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far the story travels. The rain came down like bullets. Emery Vale stood behind the counter of Sal's diner, watching water streak down the windows in diagonal rivers, turning Flatbush Avenue into a carnival of blurred headlights and smeared neon. The clock above the register read 11:47 p.m. 15 customers scattered across cracked vinyl booths, the smell of burnt coffee and fryer grease thick enough to chew. She moved through her shift like a machine. Refill coffee. Clear plates. Smile when necessary. Never make eye contact longer than 3 seconds. Never ask questions. Never be remembered. 3 years. That's how long she'd been Emery Vale. Before that, she'd been someone else entirely. The door chimed. 4 men walked in, shaking rain from expensive coats. The kind of men who didn't belong in a place like Sal's. Too clean, too sharp, too aware of the room before they'd even crossed the threshold. The one in front stopped just inside the door, water pooling at his feet, and surveyed the space like he owned it. Tall, mid-30s, dark hair slicked back, a face that could have sold watches or ordered executions with equal ease. Lucian Vexley. Emery didn't know his name yet, but she knew the type. She'd seen men like him before. The last one had put a bullet in her brother's head. The group moved to a corner booth, the one with a clear view of both exits. 2 of the men sat facing the door. The other 2 faced the kitchen. Lucian took the seat that let him see everything. Emery grabbed 4 menus, forced her breathing steady, and walked over. "Evening," she said. Flat, professional, forgettable. Lucian didn't look up. One of the others, buzz-cut, scar through his left eyebrow, took the menus without a word. "Coffee all around," Lucian said. His voice was smooth, controlled, the kind of voice that didn't need volume to command a room. "Be right back." She turned, walked to the coffee station, and filled 4 cups. Her hands didn't shake. They hadn't shaken in 3 years. Not since the funeral. Not since she'd learned that survival meant becoming someone new. Ella Brennan had died the same night her brother did. Emery Vale didn't flinch. She brought the coffee back, set the cups down without meeting anyone's eyes, and retreated to the counter. The diner settled back into its late-night rhythm. The hiss of the grill, the murmur of a couple arguing 2 booths over, the rain hammering the roof like it wanted in. But Emery's attention stayed on the corner booth, because something was wrong. She couldn't name it. Not yet. But she'd learned to trust the prickling at the base of her skull. The same instinct that had kept her alive when Vincent Castaro's people came looking for witnesses 3 years ago. The same instinct that told her these men weren't here for coffee. Lucian pulled out his phone. Typed something. Set it face down on the table. The man with the scar leaned in, said something too quiet to hear. Lucian's expression didn't change. 11:53. Emery wiped down the counter for the 3rd time, her movements automatic, her ears straining. Then Lucian's phone buzzed. He picked it up, read the screen, and his jaw tightened, just for a second. Then the mask was back. He stood, said something to the others, and walked toward the restrooms. Past the counter, past Emery. Close enough that she caught the scent of rain and expensive cologne. He pushed through the door marked men. Emery exhaled, told herself it was nothing, told herself to stay out of it. Then the man with the scar pulled out his own phone and turned slightly away from the others. Emery's hand stilled on the counter, because she could hear him. "Outside in 5, the man said, voice low but clear in the gap between booths. 3 cars. He won't see it coming." Emery's pulse kicked. "Don't react, don't move, don't get involved." "Clean," the man continued. "In and out, no witnesses." He ended the call, slipped the phone back into his jacket, smiled at one of the other men like they'd just discussed the weather. Emery's heart slammed against her ribs. An ambush. They were walking Lucian into a trap. She glanced toward the restroom door. still closed, looked at the man with the scar. He was sipping his coffee now, casual as Sunday morning. Her mind raced. This isn't your problem. You're a waitress. You serve coffee, and you go home and you don't exist. But the voice in her head sounded like her brother, Danny, 26 years old. Shot twice in the chest outside a warehouse in Red Hook because he'd seen something he shouldn't have. Because he'd been in the wrong place. Because men like Vincent Castaro didn't leave witnesses. And because no one had warned him. Emery's hands curled into fists. She grabbed an order pad, scribbled 4 words. Ambush, outside, 5 minutes. She tore the page free, folded it twice, and tucked it into her apron. Then she picked up the coffee pot and walked back to the corner booth. Top off? She asked. The man with the scar nodded. She refilled his cup, moved to the next, her hands steady, her breathing controlled. When she reached Lucian's empty cup, she set the folded note beside it, turned, walked away. Didn't look back. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Her skin felt too tight. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to disappear, to do what she'd done for 3 years and become invisible again. But it was done. She returned to the counter, set down the coffee pot, and forced herself to breathe. The restroom door opened. Lucian walked out, drying his hands on a paper towel. He moved back to the booth, slid into his seat, and reached for his coffee. His eyes flicked to the note. He picked it up, unfolded it. Read. His expression didn't change, but his hand went still. For 5 seconds, he sat motionless. Then he folded the note, slipped it into his pocket, and looked directly at Emery. She felt the weight of his gaze like a physical thing, didn't look away, couldn't. Then Lucian turned to the man with the scar and said, "We're leaving." The man frowned. "Boss, we just—" "Now." The word wasn't loud, but it dropped like a hammer. The 3 men stood without argument. Lucian pulled out his wallet, dropped $200 bills on the table, and walked toward the door. He paused beside the counter, looked at Emery, said nothing. Then he was gone. The door chimed shut behind them. Emery exhaled. Her hands shook now. Just a little. Just enough that she had to grip the counter to steady them. Outside, through the rain-blurred windows, she watched the 4 men cross the street, saw Lucian pull out his phone, saw him make a call, saw 3 black SUVs pull up to the curb. Men poured out, armed, fast, professional, and across the street, in the shadows between 2 buildings, she saw movement. Figures retreating, running. The ambush scattered like roaches under a light. Emery's breath came short and sharp. She'd been right, and Lucian had listened. The SUVs idled for another 30 seconds. Then Lucian climbed into one, and the convoy pulled away, disappearing into the rain-soaked night. The diner returned to silence. Emery stood behind the counter, staring at the empty street, and felt the ground shift beneath her feet, because she'd broken the one rule that had kept her alive. She'd been noticed. The rest of the shift passed in a blur. Emery served coffee, cleared tables, locked the door at 2 a.m., and walked 3 blocks to her studio apartment in a building with a broken intercom and graffiti-tagged stairs. She didn't sleep. She sat on the edge of her bed, lights off, staring at the wall, and waited for the knock that would mean Castaro's people had found her. It didn't come. Morning arrived cold and gray. Emery showered, dressed, and told herself it was over, a one-time thing, a stranger's problem that she'd solved and would never think about again. She almost believed it. Until she opened her apartment door at 9 a.m. and found Lucian Vexley standing in the hallway. He wore a charcoal suit, no tie, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. Emery's blood turned to ice. "Good morning, Ella," Lucian said. Her breath stopped. No one had called her that in 3 years. "I don't know who that is," she said. "Yes, you do." He stepped forward, not threatening, just closing the distance. "Ella Brennan? 29. Originally from Bay Ridge. Worked as a paralegal before your brother was killed by Vincent Castaro's crew outside a Red Hook warehouse. You witnessed the execution from across the street, gave a statement to the police, then disappeared when Castaro's people came looking for you." Emery's vision narrowed. "You've been off the grid for 3 years," Lucian continued. "New name, new job, no social media, no credit cards, cash only. You've done a good job staying invisible. Until last night. He said it gently, like he was delivering bad news. Emery's fingers curled around the doorframe. What do you want? To thank you. You already did. $200. Very generous. That wasn't a thank you. That was a tip. He pulled a phone from his pocket, turned the screen toward her. It showed a photo of her. Not Emery Vale. Ella Brennan, taken 3 years ago outside the courthouse where she'd testified. Beneath it, a caption, wanted, $50,000. Castaro never stopped looking for you, Lucian said. And because you saved my life last night, you just put yourself back on his radar. Emery's stomach dropped. That note you gave me? The warning? One of my men is dirty. He reported it. Castaro's network knows someone tipped me off. They're pulling surveillance footage from every camera in a 6-block radius. They'll have your face by tomorrow. So what? Emery's voice came out hoarse. I run again? You can try. Lucian pocketed the phone. But you've been running for 3 years, Ella, and you're tired. I can see it. He wasn't wrong. She was exhausted. Exhausted from looking over her shoulder, from never making friends, from living in a shoebox apartment and working graveyard shifts because daylight felt too exposed, from being alone. There's another option, Lucian said, which is? You stop running, and you help me destroy the man who killed your brother. Emery stared at him. Why would you help me? Because Vincent Castaro took something from me too, and because you're the only person who's ever warned me when a bullet was coming. He paused. I don't forget debts. I'm not a killer. I know. I'm not a soldier. I know that too. Then what good am I to you? Lucian smiled, thin, sharp. You're a witness, and witnesses are the one thing Castaro can't afford. Emery's heart hammered. If I say no, then I walk away, and you go back to hiding until Castaro finds you, which he will. The hallway felt too small, too hot. And if I say yes, then you come with me, right now, and we end this. Emery looked past him, down the narrow hallway with its peeling paint and flickering fluorescent light. She thought about Danny, about the funeral where half the people didn't show because they were afraid of being seen, about 3 years of silence. I need to think, she said. You have 5 minutes. Lucian checked his watch. After that, Castaro's people will be in this building, and thinking won't save you. He turned and walked toward the stairs. Emery stood in the doorway, pulse racing, mind spinning. 5 minutes. She stepped back into her apartment, looked at the unmade bed, the empty fridge, the suitcase in the closet that she kept packed in case she needed to run. This wasn't a life. It was a pause. And she was so goddamn tired of pausing, she grabbed the suitcase, locked the door behind her, and followed Lucian down the stairs. The black SUV idled at the curb, tinted windows, engine purring. Lucian opened the back door. Get in, Emery hesitated. Last chance to walk away, he said. She climbed inside. The door closed. The locks engaged with a heavy click. Lucian slid in beside her. The driver pulled into traffic without a word. Emery stared out the window as her building disappeared behind them. Where are we going? She asked. Somewhere safe. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting right now. She turned to face him. I saved your life. That means you owe me honesty. Lucian studied her, then nodded. Fair. We're going to a secure location in Queens. You'll stay there until we figure out our next move. Our next move? You want Castaro gone. So do I. That makes us allies. What's your angle? Emery asked. Why do you care about a mid-level crime boss? Mid-level? Lucian's smile was cold. Vincent Castaro runs half the drug trade on the eastern seaboard. He's got judges, cops, and politicians in his pocket. He's not mid-level. He's a cancer. And you're what? A surgeon? Something like that. Emery leaned back against the seat. You didn't answer my question. Why do you care? Lucian's jaw tightened. Because 5 years ago, Castaro's people killed my sister. She was 16. Wrong place, wrong time. Just like your brother. The SUV turned onto the expressway, merging into the flow of morning traffic. I've spent the last 5 years building a case against him, Lucian continued. Gathering evidence, flipping witnesses, cutting off his supply lines, but he's careful. Every time I get close, someone disappears, or dies, or recants. So what changed? You. Emery frowned. I don't understand. You testified against him once. You put your name on a statement that linked Castaro to your brother's murder. That makes you valuable. I'm not testifying again. You won't have to. Lucian pulled a tablet from the seat pocket in front of him, tapped the screen, turned it toward her. It showed a map. Red dots scattered across Brooklyn, Queens, Shins, and Manhattan. These are Castaro's operations, Lucian said. Warehouses, fronts, distribution hubs. I've been tracking them for years, but I've never been able to move on them because I didn't have probable cause. He zoomed in on one of the dots. This is a shipping company in Red Hook. Legitimate on paper, but it's a front. Castaro uses it to move product. If we can get inside, if we can prove what's happening there, we can get warrants for the rest. Emery stared at the screen. And how do you plan to get inside? I don't. Lucian looked at her. You do. Her stomach twisted. I'm not breaking into a warehouse. You won't have to. You'll walk in the front door. As what? A health inspector, an insurance adjuster, a delivery driver. Whatever gets you access. He swiped to another screen. We'll create a cover identity. Forge credentials. You go in, plant a camera, and walk out. 30 minutes. That's it. Emery shook her head. This is insane. Maybe, but it's the only play we have. Why me? Why not one of your people? Because Castaro knows my people. He doesn't know you. He's looking for me. As Ella Brennan, not as a health inspector with a fake ID and a clipboard. The SUV exited the expressway, winding through residential streets lined with row houses and chain-link fences. Emery's mind raced. This was a mistake. She should have stayed in her apartment, should have run, should have... You don't have to decide now, Lucian said, but you need to know what you're up against. Castaro isn't just looking for you, he's hunting you. And when he finds you, there won't be a trial. There won't be an arrest. There'll just be a body. Emery closed her eyes. How long do I have? A day, maybe 2. His people are good. And if I help you, if I do this, what happens after? If we succeed, Castaro goes to prison, his network collapses, and you get your life back. And if we fail? Lucian didn't answer. He didn't have to. The safe house was a narrow brownstone tucked between a bodega and a laundromat. Unremarkable. Forgettable. Perfect. Lucian led her inside. The first floor was empty except for a couch, a table, and a laptop. Upstairs, a bedroom with a single bed and blackout curtains. You'll stay here, Lucian said. Food's in the kitchen. Don't leave. Don't call anyone. Don't go near the windows. Am I a guest or a prisoner? You're alive. That's all that matters right now. He handed her a phone. Burner. No contacts. My number's programmed in. You need anything, you call me. Emery took the phone. What now? Now you rest. Tomorrow, we start planning. He turned to leave. Lucien, he stopped. Why are you really doing this? He looked back at her. Something flickered in his eyes. Grief, maybe, or rage. Because I'm tired of losing people, he said. Then he was gone. Emery sat on the couch and stared at the blank walls. Her life had collapsed in less than 12 hours. Again. She thought about running. She still had cash. She could disappear, change her name again, start over in another city. But Lucian was right. She was tired. Tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of being afraid. And for the first time in 3 years, she had a chance to fight back. She just didn't know if she had the strength. The next morning, Lucian returned with 2 men, both armed, both silent. This is Marcus and Jonas, he said. They'll be your security. Emery nodded. Lucian set a briefcase on the table and opened it. Inside, a fake ID, a health inspector's badge, a clipboard with official-looking forms. Your name is Rachel Kim, he said. You work for the city. You're conducting routine inspections of commercial properties in Red Hook. Your target is Apex Shipping on Van Brunt Street. He pulled out a small device, no bigger than a button. This is a camera, wireless, streams directly to us. You plant it somewhere with a clear view of the loading dock. Then you leave. Emery picked up the fake ID. The photo was hers, but the name was wrong. The face was wrong. Everything was wrong. When? She asked. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Marcus will drive you. Jonas will be on Overwatch 2 blocks away. You'll have comms. Anything goes sideways, you abort. And if I get caught? Lucian's expression hardened. You won't. That night, Emery couldn't sleep. She lay in the unfamiliar bed, staring at the ceiling, and thought about Danny. About the last time she'd seen him. They'd been at a diner, not Sal's, a different one. He'd ordered pancakes and complained about his job and made her laugh. 2 hours later, he was dead, and she'd been too far away to warn him. But this time, she wasn't too far. This time, she could do something. She just had to be brave enough to try. Morning came too fast. Marcus drove her to Red Hook in a white van with city inspection stenciled on the side. Emery wore a blazer, carried the clipboard, and tried not to throw up. You good? Marcus asked. No? That's normal. Great. The van stopped half a block from Apex Shipping. Comms check, Marcus said. Emery touched the earpiece hidden beneath her hair. I hear you. Good. Jonas is in position. You've got eyes on you the whole time. She nodded, opened the door, stepped out into the cold morning air. Apex Shipping was a squat concrete building with rusted garage doors and a faded sign. A semi-truck idled in the lot. 2 men stood near the loading dock, smoking. Emery forced herself to walk toward them, clipboard up, confident. Morning, she said. Health and safety, routine inspection. One of the men frowned. We weren't notified. Random audit. You can call the office if you want, but that'll delay your shipment clearance. The man hesitated, then waved her through. Make it quick. Emery stepped inside. The warehouse was cavernous, rows of shipping containers, forklifts moving pallets, the smell of diesel and salt water. She moved along the wall, pretending to check fire extinguishers, found a metal beam near the loading dock, planted the camera. It took 5 seconds. No one noticed. She turned to leave and came face to face with a man in a suit. He smiled. Can I help you? Emery's pulse spiked. Just finishing up. Everything looks good. I don't think we've met. I'm the site manager. He extended a hand. She shook it. His grip was too firm, too long. Rachel Kim, City Health and Safety. Funny. I don't remember scheduling an inspection. Random audit. Right. He didn't let go of her hand. You know what's even funnier? He said. I called the office 5 minutes ago. They've never heard of you. Emery's blood turned to ice. Must be a mix-up. Must be. His smile widened, and behind him 3 more men appeared. Emery's earpiece crackled. Abort, Marcus said. Get out. Now! But the man was still holding her hand, and the exit was blocked. She was trapped. The site manager's smile didn't reach his eyes. His grip on Emery's hand tightened just enough to hurt, just enough to make a point. So, he said, voice pleasant as Sunday breakfast. Who sent you? Emery's mind raced. The 3 men behind him had fanned out, blocking the exits. One had his hand inside his jacket, the universal gesture for I'm armed and willing to prove it. I told you, she said. City Health and Safety. Right, and I told you they've never heard of you. He released her hand, stepped back, looked her up and down like she was merchandise. So let's try this again. Who sent you? In her ear, Marcus's voice crackled. We're coming in. Hold tight. Emery forced herself to breathe, to think. She had maybe 30 seconds before this went from interrogation to violence. There must be some mistake with the paperwork, she said. It happens all the time. Budget cuts, new system. Half the inspectors aren't in the database yet. Convenient. The man pulled out his phone, showed her the screen. It was a photo of her. Not Rachel Kim. Ella Brennan, 3 years younger, standing outside a courthouse. Her stomach dropped through the floor. Vincent wants to talk to you, the man said. Emery's pulse hammered in her throat. I don't know who that is. Sure you don't. He gestured to the men behind him. Take her to the office. Make sure she's comfortable. The word comfortable landed like a threat. Two of the men moved toward her. Emery backed up. Her heel hit a pallet. Nowhere to go. Then the loading dock door exploded inward. Not metaphorically, actually exploded. Metal shrieked. Hinges tore free. The door crashed onto the concrete floor with a sound like a car accident. Marcus came through first, pistol raised, flanked by two others Emery didn't recognize. "Federal agents!" Marcus shouted. "Hands where I can see them!" The warehouse erupted into chaos. The site manager dove behind a shipping container. His men scattered. One reached for his gun and Marcus put a round through his shoulder before he cleared leather. The man went down screaming. Emery dropped to the floor, hands over her head, clipboard clattering away. Gunfire split the air. Concrete chips sprayed. Someone was yelling orders, but the words were lost in the noise. Hands grabbed her arm. She twisted, ready to fight. It was Jonas, the silent one from the safe house. "Move!" he shouted. He hauled her to her feet and shoved her toward the ruined loading dock. She stumbled over debris, lungs burning, ears ringing. Another burst of gunfire behind her. Someone cursed in Spanish. Then she was outside, Jonas pushing her toward the white van, its engine already running. "Get in!" She dove into the back. Jonas slammed the door and the van lurched forward, tires screaming. Through the rear window, Emery saw Marcus and the others retreating, firing as they moved. Saw the site manager emerge from cover, phone pressed to his ear, face twisted with rage. Then the van turned a corner and the warehouse disappeared. Emery collapsed against the wall, gasping for air. Her hands shook so hard she had to clench them into fists. "You okay?" Jonas asked from the driver's seat. "No." "Yeah, that's fair." The van merged into traffic. Horns blared. Jonas drove like a man fleeing the apocalypse, fast, aggressive, and utterly indifferent to the speed limit. Emery's earpiece crackled. "Status?" Lucian's voice clipped, controlled. Jonas answered. "Package secure, extraction successful, 2 hostiles down. We're clean." "Good. Bring her in." The line went dead. Emery closed her eyes and tried not to throw up. They didn't go back to the brownstone. Jonas drove them to a different location, an industrial building in Long Island City with no signage and cameras on every corner. He parked in an underground garage, led Emery through a steel door, and deposited her in a windowless room with a table and 4 chairs. Then he left, locked the door behind him. Emery sat down and put her head in her hands. Her brother's face flickered behind her eyelids, the way he'd looked at the funeral, pale, waxy, wrong. She'd promised herself she'd never feel that helpless again, and yet here she was, a pawn in someone else's war. The door opened. Lucian walked in, followed by Marcus. Both looked grim. "They made you," Lucian said without preamble. "I noticed." "How?" "The site manager called the city. They didn't have me in the system." Lucian's jaw tightened. He looked at Marcus. "We vetted the credentials," Marcus said. "They should have held up." "Should have isn't good enough." "I know." Lucian turned back to Emery. "Did you plant the camera?" "Yes." "Before or after they made you?" "Before." Something flickered in Lucian's expression. Relief, maybe, or calculation. "Then we've got something." He pulled out a tablet, swiped to a live feed. It showed the warehouse from the camera's perspective. Men moving pallets, forklifts, business as usual. Except now, with the camera in place, every movement was documented, every face captured, every shipment logged. "This is good," Lucian said. "This is what we needed." "Great," Emery said flatly. "So I almost died for a decent camera angle." Lucian set the tablet down. "You did your job. That's all that matters." "My job?" Emery stood up, the chair scraping against concrete. "I'm not one of your people. I didn't sign up for this. You came to me because you said I didn't have a choice." "You don't." The words hung in the air like smoke. Emery stared at him, at the cool, controlled mask he wore like armor. "You used me," she said. "I gave you a chance to fight back. You sent me into a trap. I sent you into a calculated risk. There's a difference." Marcus shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. Emery's hands curled into fists. If Marcus hadn't come in when he did, but he did, that's not the point. Then what is? She stepped closer, close enough to see the flecks of gray in Lucian's eyes, close enough to smell gunpowder and expensive cologne. The point is, you don't get to gamble with my life without asking. I'm not asking anymore, Lucian said quietly. Because Castaro saw your face, and now there's no going back. Emery's breath caught. What? Lucian gestured to Marcus, who pulled up a new image on the tablet. It was her. Grainy. Pulled from security footage, time-stamped 20 minutes ago. And beneath it, a caption in bold red text. Confirmed. Ella Brennan, alive. Castaro's network just sent this to every crew from here to Boston, Lucian said. By tonight, every lowlife in the city will be looking for you. And the bounty just went up to 100,000. Emery felt the walls close in. So what now? Now we finish what we started. How? We take the fight to him. Unchachat. The plan was insane. Lucian laid it out in the same windowless room, Marcus standing silent in the corner, arms crossed. Castaro operates out of a club in Tribeca, Lucian said. High-end. Exclusive. It's where he meets clients, launders money, and runs his operations. It's also where he feels safe. And you want me to walk in there? No, I want you to get arrested outside. Emery blinked. Excuse me? Lucian pulled up a new image on the tablet. A woman in an evening gown, dark hair, expensive jewelry. This is Detective Sarah Chen, NYPD. She's been working Castaro for 2 years. She's clean, and she's willing to help. Help how? You stage a public confrontation outside the club, make noise, draw attention. Chen arrests you, takes you into custody. And then what? Then she brings you in for questioning, officially, on the record. And you give a statement implicating Castaro in your brother's murder. Emery shook her head. I already gave a statement 3 years ago. It didn't stick. Because you disappeared before the DA could build a case. This time you don't disappear. You go on record, you testify, and we use that testimony to get warrants. For what? Everything. The club, the warehouses, his financial records. Once we crack one door, the rest fall. Emery looked at Marcus. What do you think? Marcus hesitated, then shrugged. It's risky, but it could work. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement. Nothing about this is safe, Marcus said. But sitting here waiting for Castaro to find you, that's suicide. Lucian leaned forward. You want your life back? This is how you get it. We put Castaro in a box, publicly, legally, so tight he can't wriggle out. And if he comes after me before then? He won't have the chance. Emery laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. You can't promise that. No, Lucian admitted, but I can promise that if you run, you'll spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, and one day you'll slip, and he'll be there. Silence. Emery stared at the table, at the scratches in the metal, at the reflection of the overhead light. She thought about Danny, about the last 3 years, about the woman she used to be. When? She asked. Tomorrow night? That's not a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time. Emery closed her eyes, breathed, opened them. Fine, but I want something in return. Lucian raised an eyebrow. What? The truth, about who you really are. Because federal agents don't run off book operations, and they don't have safe houses in Queens. Lucian's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Marcus cleared his throat. Boss? It's fine. Lucian waved him off, looked at Emery. You're right. I'm not federal. I'm private. Private what? Contractor. I work for people who want problems solved quietly. What kind of problems? The kind the law can't touch. Emery felt her stomach twist. So you're a criminal. I'm a cleaner. There's a difference. Not to me. Lucian leaned back in his chair. 5 years ago, my sister was killed in a drive-by. Wrong place, wrong time. The shooter was one of Castaro's crew. I went to the police. They said they'd investigate. They didn't. So I did. He paused. I spent 2 years gathering evidence. Names, dates, transactions. I handed it all to the DA. And you know what happened? Emery didn't answer. Nothing. Because Castaro owns half the city. Judges, cops, prosecutors. The case disappeared, and so did the evidence. His voice didn't rise, but the anger in it was sharp enough to cut. So I stopped playing by their rules. I built my own team, found my own resources, and I've been dismantling Castaro's empire piece by piece for 3 years. Why tell me this? Emery asked. Because you asked. And because if we're going to do this, you need to know who you're working with. A vigilante. A man who finishes what he starts. Emery met his gaze. And when this is over, when Castaro's in prison, what happens to you? Lucian smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. I move on to the next problem. Autistic. That night, Emery lay in a different safe house, this one in Astoria, and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, she'd walk into the lion's den. Tomorrow, she'd bet everything on a plan held together with duct tape and hope. Tomorrow, she'd become Ella Brennan again. The thought terrified her, not because she was afraid of dying, but because she was afraid of failing again. Her phone buzzed, a text from Lucian, just 2 words. Get sleep. She almost laughed. Instead, she set the phone down and closed her eyes. Sleep didn't come, but eventually the night did end. The next evening, Marcus drove her to Tribeca in a black sedan with tinted windows. Emery wore a dress, red, form-fitting, the kind of thing Ella Brennan would have worn to a fundraiser, heels that made her 3 inches taller and twice as unsteady. Her hair was down, makeup perfect. She looked like a different person. She felt like a fraud. You remember the plan? Marcus asked. I yell at Castaro. Chen arrests me. I give a statement. Close enough? What if he doesn't come outside? He will. Men like Castaro can't resist a public scene, especially when it's a woman. Emery looked out the window. The club was just ahead. A sleek glass and steel building with a velvet rope and a line of people waiting to get in. Expensive cars idled at the curb. Valets in black vests hustled between them. Emery's pulse kicked. What if this doesn't work? Marcus glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Then we improvise. Great. That's really reassuring. You want reassuring? Go to church. You want to survive? Trust the plan. The car stopped half a block from the club. Chen's inside, Marcus said. She'll be watching. You make your move, she'll be on you in 30 seconds. And Lucian? Nearby. That's vague. That's intentional. Emery exhaled, opened the door, stepped out into the cold night air. The dress was too thin for the weather. She wrapped her arms around herself and walked toward the club, heels clicking on the pavement. The bouncer at the door looked her up and down. Name? I'm here to see Vincent Castaro. The bouncer frowned. He's not taking visitors. Tell him Ella Brennan wants a word. The man's expression shifted. Recognition, then wariness. He pulled out a phone, stepped aside, spoke quietly. Emery's heart hammered. This was it, the point of no return. The bouncer ended the call, looked at her. Wait here. He disappeared inside. Emery stood on the sidewalk, shivering, trying not to think about all the ways this could go wrong, trying not to think about Danny, trying not to run. Then the door opened, and Vincent Castaro stepped out. He was smaller than she remembered, mid-50s, graying hair, expensive suit, the kind of man who looked like a banker, not a killer. But Emery knew better. She'd seen what his people did to her brother. Ella Brennan, Castaro said, his voice smooth as silk. I heard you were dead. Disappointed? He smiled. Not at all. It's good to see you. We have unfinished business. Yeah, we do. Emery stepped closer, close enough that the bouncer shifted, hand moving toward his jacket. Castaro waved him off. It's fine. Miss Brennan and I are old friends. Friends? Emery's voice cracked. You killed my brother. I did no such thing. Bullshit. Your people shot him in Red Hook 3 years ago. I was there. I saw it. Castaro's smile didn't waver. You saw wrong. I gave a statement to the police. And then you disappeared, which makes one wonder, what else were you wrong about? Emery's hands shook. She wanted to hit him, to scream, to make him hurt the way Danny had hurt. But that wasn't the plan. I'm not wrong, she said, loud enough that people on the sidewalk turned to look. You're a murderer, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows it. Castaro's smile faded. Careful, Ms. Brennan. Accusations like that can be dangerous. So can witnesses. His eyes narrowed. Is that a threat? It's a promise. The air between them crackled with tension. Then a voice cut through the moment. NYPD, step away from the vehicle. Detective Sarah Chen emerged from the crowd, badge raised, two uniformed officers flanking her. Castaro stepped back, hands up, the picture of innocence. Officer, I don't know what this is about. Ms. Brennan, Chen said, ignoring him. You're under arrest for disturbing the peace. Emery's pulse spiked. This was the part where she was supposed to resist, to make it look real. I didn't do anything, she shouted. Turn around. Hands behind your back. This is bullshit. One of the officers grabbed her arm. Emery twisted, pulling away. The officer yanked harder, spinning her around, slamming her against the car. Pain shot through her shoulder. Hey! She gasped. Metal cuffs bit into her wrists. You have the right to remain silent, Chen said, her voice flat and professional. Emery looked at Castaro. He was watching, smiling again. Careful, Ms. Brennan, he said, but prison's no place for a woman like you. Then Chen shoved her into the back of a patrol car, and the door slammed shut. The precinct was exactly what Emery expected. Fluorescent lights, linoleum floors, the smell of burned coffee, and desperation. Chen led her through processing, fingerprints, photos, paperwork, without a word, then into an interrogation room. The door closed. Chen sat down across from her and unlocked the cuffs. You okay? She asked quietly. Emery rubbed her wrists. Peachy. That officer was a little rough, sorry. It's fine. Had to look real. Chen pulled out a recorder, set it on the table. This is Detective Sarah Chen, badge number 4782. Interview with Ella Brennan regarding case number 6. Wait, Emery said. Chen paused. What? Before we do this, I need to know something. What? Are you really going to protect me? Or am I just bait? Chen's expression softened. I've been working Castaro for 2 years. I've seen what he does to people. What he did to your brother. She leaned forward. I'm not letting him do it to you. Emery searched her face for a lie. Found none. Okay, she said. Let's do this. Chen hit record. State your name for the record. Ella Brennan. And you're here voluntarily. Yes? On the night of September 14th, 3 years ago, what did you witness? Emery took a breath and told the truth. All of it. The warehouse. The car. The 2 men who dragged Danny out and shot him twice in the chest. The face she saw in the driver's seat. Vincent Castaro. By the time she finished, her throat was raw and her hands were shaking. Chen turned off the recorder. That's good, she said. That's really good. Now what? Now I take this to the DA. We get a warrant, and we move on Castaro before he knows what hit him. Emery wanted to believe her, wanted to believe this would work, but she'd believed the system once before, and Danny was still dead. They put her in a holding cell, not because she was under arrest, but because it was the safest place in the building. Emery sat on the metal bench and stared at the cinder block wall. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. A uniformed officer appeared, young, nervous. You've got a visitor, he said. Who? Didn't say. He unlocked the cell, led her down a corridor to a private room. Lucian was waiting inside. How'd you get in here? Emery asked. I know people. Of course you do. He gestured to the chair across from him. She sat. Chen says you did good, Lucian said. Yeah, well, we'll see if it matters. It will. You can't know that. I can hope. Emery laughed bitterly. Hope doesn't stop bullets. No, but preparation does. He slid a folder across the table. Emery opened it. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Castaro's operations, his people, his properties, and at the center of it all, a timeline. What is this? She asked. Insurance. If the DA moves on Castaro, we've got everything we need to back it up. If they don't, we move ourselves. Lucian nodded. Emery stared at the photos, at the faces of men she didn't know but recognized all the same, men like the ones who killed Danny. I'm tired, she said quietly. I know. I just want this to be over. It will be, soon. She looked up at him. Do you ever regret it, going after him? Lucian was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Every day. But I regret not doing it more. Waitress." The call came 3 hours later. Chen burst into the holding area, eyes bright. "We got it," she said. "The warrant. Judge signed off on everything. Castaro's club, his warehouses, his financial records. We move at dawn." Emery felt something shift in her chest. Relief, or maybe just exhaustion. "What about me?" "You stay here. Protective custody. Until we've got him in cuffs." "And then?" "Then you testify, and we put him away for the rest of his life." It sounded too easy, too clean, but Emery nodded anyway. "Okay," Chen smiled. "You did good, Ella. Really good." Then she was gone. Emery sat alone in the cell and tried to believe it was over, tried to believe she'd finally won. But deep down, she knew better, because men like Vincent Castaro didn't go down easy, and this was far from finished. Midnight came and went. Emery dozed fitfully on the metal bench, her mind churning through every conversation, every decision, every moment that had led her here. Then she heard it. Gunfire. Distant, muffled, but unmistakable. She sat up, pulse spiking. Shouting echoed through the precinct, boots pounding on linoleum. More gunfire. Closer now. The lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Emery stood, heart hammering, and moved to the cell door. "Hey!" she shouted. "What's happening?" No answer. Then a figure appeared at the end of the hallway, backlit, moving fast. It was Marcus. Blood streaked his face. His gun was drawn. "We need to move," he said. "Now." "What?" "Castaro's people. They're inside. Chen's dead." The words hit like a punch. "What?" "I said move." He unlocked the cell, grabbed her arm, and pulled her into the hallway. Behind them, more gunfire erupted. Someone screamed. Marcus shoved Emery toward a side exit. "Go. Don't stop. Lucian's waiting outside." "What about you?" "I'll hold them off. Go." Emery ran, down the corridor, through the exit, into the cold night air. A black SUV idled at the curb. The door flew open. "Get in!" Lucian shouted. She dove inside. The door slammed. The SUV peeled out, tires screeching. Emery looked back, saw flames licking out of the precinct windows, saw bodies on the ground, saw Marcus stagger out of the building, clutching his side, and then collapse. "No!" Emery screamed, but the SUV was already gone, racing through the dark streets, leaving the burning precinct behind, leaving Marcus behind, leaving everything behind. Lucian didn't speak. He just drove. And Emery sat in the back seat, covered in someone else's blood, and realized the truth. There was no going back now. No police. No system. No clean ending. Just her, Lucian, and a war that wouldn't end until someone was dead. The SUV tore through the streets of Brooklyn like a wounded animal, weaving between lanes, blowing through red lights. Emery's ears still rang from the gunfire. Her hands were sticky with blood. Marcus's blood. Chen's blood. She didn't know anymore. Didn't matter. Lucian drove in silence, jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the road. Behind them, sirens wailed, growing louder, closer. "Where are we going?" Emery asked. Her voice came out hoarse, barely above a whisper. "Somewhere they won't find us." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now." Emery twisted in her seat, looked through the rear window. 3 police cruisers, lights blazing, maybe 4 blocks back. "They're gaining." "I know." Lucian yanked the wheel hard right, sending the SUV careening down a side street. Emery slammed against the door, her shoulder screaming in protest. The cruisers followed. "We can't outrun them," she said. "We don't have to. We just need 60 seconds. He pulled out his phone, thumb moving across the screen, while somehow keeping the SUV from wrapping around a lamppost. Tossed the phone to Emery. "There's an address in the GPS. Tell me when we're 2 blocks away." She looked at the screen. An industrial area near the waterfront. Dead-end streets and abandoned warehouses. "Why there?" "Because Jonas is waiting. Jonas is alive. Unlike Marcus." The words were sharp, final. Lucian's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Emery swallowed the lump in her throat and focused on the GPS. "Left at the next intersection," she said. Lucian took the turn without slowing. The SUV's tires shrieked. Something metal scraped beneath them. The cruisers stayed on their tail. "One more block," Emery said. "Copy." He floored it. The engine roared. 60, 70, 80 miles an hour on a residential street lined with parked cars and darkened storefronts. "Now!" Emery shouted. Lucian slammed the brakes and yanked the wheel left. The SUV went sideways, fishtailing into a narrow alley between two warehouse buildings. Brick walls flashed past on either side, close enough to touch. Then they burst out into an open lot. A white cargo van sat in the center, rear doors open, engine running. Jonas stood beside it, assault rifle in hand. "Out!" Lucian barked. Lucian. Emery threw open her door and ran. Lucian was right behind her. They dove into the van and Jonas slammed the door shut, climbed into the driver's seat, and punched the accelerator. The van lurched forward just as the police cruisers entered the lot. But Jonas didn't head for the street. He drove straight toward the waterfront. "What are you doing?" Emery yelled. Jonas didn't answer. The van bounced over railroad tracks, crashed through a chain-link fence, and launched off a loading dock. For one terrible moment, they were airborne. Then they hit. Water exploded around them. The impact threw Emery against the van's wall. Pain lanced through her ribs. The van bobbed, tilted, and for a horrifying second she thought they were going to sink. But the rear doors were already open. Lucian grabbed her arm. "Swim!" They plunged into freezing black water. Emery's lungs seized. Her dress tangled around her legs. She kicked hard, broke the surface, gasping. Jonas was already swimming toward a concrete pier 20 yards away. Lucian followed. Emery forced her arms to move. Her muscles screamed. The cold bit into her bones. Behind them, police lights illuminated the edge of the loading dock. Flashlights swept across the water, but they were too far away, too dark, too small. Emery reached the pier, hands scrabbling for purchase on slimy concrete. Jonas hauled her up. Then Lucian. They collapsed on the pier, shivering, gasping. "Move," Jonas said. "We're not clear yet." He led them through a maze of shipping containers to a rusted-out fishing boat tied to a piling. They climbed aboard. Jonas fired up the engine. It coughed, sputtered, then roared to life. The boat pulled away from the pier and merged into the dark expanse of the East River. Emery sat on the deck, soaked to the bone, teeth chattering, and watched the lights of Brooklyn recede. Chen was dead. Marcus was dead. And she was further from safety than she'd ever been. Lucian sat beside her, water dripping from his hair, his face carved from stone. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "For what?" "All of it." Emery didn't respond. Because sorry didn't bring people back. The boat took them to a pier in Queens. Not a nice part of Queens. The kind of place where streetlights had been shot out and the buildings leaned like they were drunk. Jonas tied up the boat, and they climbed onto dry land. A black sedan waited in the shadows. "Another safe house?" Emery asked. "Something like that," Lucian said. They drove in silence. Emery's mind churned. Chen had gotten the warrant. The raid was supposed to happen at dawn. But now Chen was dead, and the precinct was a war zone, and the police thought Emery was either a victim or an accomplice. Either way, she was fucked. The sedan stopped in front of a 3-story building with boarded-up windows and graffiti on every available surface. Jonas led them inside, up a narrow staircase that smelled like mold and piss, to a door with 3 deadbolts. He unlocked them. Inside was a single room. Concrete floor, metal table, folding chairs. A hot plate and a mini fridge in the corner. One window covered with blackout curtains. Home sweet home. "I'll get you dry clothes," Jonas said, and disappeared into what Emery assumed was a closet. She stood in the middle of the room, dripping water, shaking from cold and shock. Lucian peeled off his soaked jacket and tossed it onto the table. "We need to regroup," he said. "Regroup?" Emery's voice cracked. "Marcus is dead. Chen is dead. The police think we're criminals. Castaro's people almost killed us. What the fuck is there to regroup?" Lucian met her eyes. "We're still alive." "For how long?" "As long as it takes." Jonas emerged with sweatpants and a hoodie, handed them to Emery. "Bathroom's through there," he said, pointing to a door in the corner. Emery took the clothes and walked into a cramped bathroom with a toilet, a sink, and a shower, that had seen better decades. She stripped off the ruined dress, peeled off her soaked underwear, and stood under scalding water until her skin turned red. When she came out, Lucian and Jonas were huddled over a laptop at the table. "What are you looking at?" she asked. Lucian turned the screen toward her. It showed news footage, the precinct, fire trucks, ambulances, bodies covered with white sheets. The headline read, "Gang attack on NYPD precinct. 6 dead, 12 injured." "They're calling it gang violence," Lucian said. "Was it?" "Castaro's people aren't a gang, they're an army." Jonas tapped a few keys. A new window opened. Security footage from inside the precinct. Grainy, time-stamped. Emery watched as armed men stormed the building. Watched officers go down. Watched Chen draw her weapon and fire 3 shots before someone put a bullet in her head. Emery's stomach turned. "Why?" she whispered. "Why did they do this?" "Because you're a threat," Lucian said, "and Castaro doesn't leave threats alive." "But the warrant doesn't matter, not anymore. Every copy of your statement went up in flames. The evidence Chen collected? Gone. The DA's case? Dead." Emery sank into a chair. "So it was all for nothing." "No, it showed Castaro that we're serious, and it flushed out his mole." She looked up sharply. "What mole?" Lucian's jaw tightened. Someone told Castaro about the raid. Someone inside the NYPD. That's how his people knew exactly when and where to hit. "Who?" "I don't know yet. But I will." Jonas closed the laptop. "We need to disappear for a few days, let things cool down." "And then what?" Emery asked. Lucian leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes locked on hers. "Then we hit him where it hurts." "How?" "His money. Castaro's empire runs on cash flow, drugs, extortion, laundering. We cut off the flow. We cut off his power." "You're talking about robbing him." "I'm talking about destroying him." Emery laughed. It came out bitter and half-crazed. "With what army?" "Marcus is dead. Chen is dead. It's just us." "Not quite." Lucian pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, and set it on the table. A man's face appeared, 50s. Scarred. Hard eyes. "This is Dominic Reyes. He used to work for Castaro. Now he works for me." "Why would he flip?" "Because Castaro killed his son." Emery stared at the photo. "How many people has Castaro killed?" "Too many to count." Lucian swiped to another photo. A younger man, military build. "This is Aaron Cole, former Army Ranger, explosives expert. He's been tracking Castaro's weapons shipments for 6 months." Another swipe. A woman this time. Late 30s. Sharp features. "Nina Volkov, financial analyst. She's been tracing Castaro's offshore accounts." "So you've got a crew." "I've got resources. Now I've got you." "I'm not a resource. I'm a waitress." "You're a survivor. That's worth more." Emery wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was insane, that this was suicide. But she was too tired, and deep down, she knew he was right. Running wouldn't save her. Hiding wouldn't save her. The only way out was through. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. Lucian smiled. "For now, rest. Tomorrow, we plan." Sleep didn't come easy. Emery lay on a thin mattress in the corner of the room, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of traffic outside and the low murmur of Lucian and Jonas talking strategy. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Chen's body. Marcus collapsing, Danny lying in a casket. She'd thought testifying would end it. She'd been wrong. Somewhere around 4 a.m., exhaustion finally dragged her under. She dreamed of fire, of blood, of her brother's voice calling her name. When she woke, sunlight was filtering through the cracks in the blackout curtains. Lucian was sitting at the table, coffee in hand, laptop open. "Morning," he said without looking up. Emery sat up, her body aching. "What time is it?" "Almost noon. You needed the sleep." She walked to the table. The laptop screen showed financial records, numbers, transactions, shell companies. "What is all this?" "Castaro's money trail. Nina sent it over an hour ago." And we found something interesting." He turned the screen toward her, highlighted a series of transactions. Large sums, moving from one account to another, all dated within the last week. Castaro's moving money. Fast. Like he's getting ready to run. Emery frowned. Why would he run? He just won. Did he? Lucian pulled up another window. News footage. Federal agents raiding a warehouse in New Jersey. This happened 3 hours ago. The feds hit one of Castaro's distribution hubs. Seized $20 million in product. Arrested 15 people. How? Someone tipped them off. Emery's pulse quickened. You? Not me. Someone else. Someone close to Castaro. A mole. Exactly. Lucian leaned back in his chair. Castaro's paranoid. He's convinced someone in his organization is selling him out, so he's consolidating, moving assets, preparing for a war. Against who? Everyone? Us? The feds? His own people? He's spiraling. Jonas walked in from the bathroom, towel around his neck. That makes him dangerous. Or desperate, Lucian said, and desperate men make mistakes. Emery looked between them. So what's the play? Lucian smiled. We give him a target, something big enough that he can't ignore. And when he comes for it, we take him down. What kind of target? Me. The word hung in the air. Emery shook her head. No. That's suicide. It's calculated risk. It's insane. Maybe. But it's the only move we have. Jonas crossed his arms. He's right. Castaro wants you dead, Ella, but he wants Lucien more. If we dangle the bait, he'll bite. And then what? You shoot him? That makes you murderers. No, Lucian said. We let the feds do the shooting. We just set the table. He pulled up another file. A location, coordinates. A warehouse in Red Hook. The same warehouse where Danny had died. Emery's breath caught. Why there? Because it's symbolic. Castaro will know what it means, and he won't be able to resist. You're using my brother's death as bait. Lucian's expression softened. I'm using Castaro's arrogance against him. He thinks he's untouchable. We're going to prove him wrong. Emery stared at the screen, at the address that had haunted her for 3 years. When? She asked quietly. 2 days. That gives us time to prep and coordinate with the feds. You trust them? After what happened at the precinct? No, but I trust Nina. She's got contacts, clean ones. Emery closed her eyes, breathed, opened them. Fine, but I'm coming with you. No, not negotiable. That's my brother's grave you're using. I'm there. Lucian studied her face, then nodded. Okay, but you follow orders, no heroics. Wouldn't dream of it, assez. The next 2 days passed in a blur of planning and preparation. Nina arrived that evening with a duffel bag full of equipment, cameras, microphones, GPS trackers. She was exactly what Emery expected, cold, efficient, and utterly uninterested in small talk. Here's the layout, Nina said, spreading blueprints across the table. The warehouse has 3 entry points, front, side, loading dock. We plant cameras at all 3. When Castaro shows, we record everything. Then we feed it to the feds in real time. And if he doesn't show? Emery asked. He will. Lucian's putting out word that he's meeting a buyer. Big deal. Weapons, cash. Castaro can't afford to let that slide in his territory. Aaron Cole arrived the next morning. Tall, quiet. Ex-military written all over him. He carried a case that Emery assumed held enough explosives to level a city block. Insurance, he said when he caught her staring. In case things go sideways. How sideways are we talking? Aaron smiled. The kind where we need to make a lot of noise and disappear real fast. Dominic Reyes showed up last. Older than his photo suggested. Harder. He looked at Emery like she was a problem he hadn't solved yet. You're the witness, he said. I'm Ella. Same thing. He turned to Lucian. You sure about this? No, but we're doing it anyway. Dominic grunted. Your funeral. The night before the operation, Emery couldn't sleep. She sat on the mattress, knees pulled to her chest, and stared at the wall. Lucian walked over, 2 cups of coffee in hand, offered her one. Thanks, she said. He sat beside her. You don't have to do this, he said. You can still walk away. No, I can't. Why not? Because if I walk away now, Danny died for nothing, and I can't live with that. Lucian sipped his coffee. Your brother would want you to live. My brother would want me to finish this. Silence. Then Lucian said, I lied to you. Emery looked at him sharply. About what? My sister. She wasn't killed in a drive-by. Emery's pulse quickened. Then what happened? Lucian's jaw worked. She was an informant, working with the FBI, feeding them information on Castaro's network. And when he found out, he had her tortured. For 3 days. Then he killed her. His voice didn't waver, but his hands shook. I found her body in a dumpster in Queens. They'd cut off her fingers, carved his initials into her chest. Emery felt bile rise in her throat. Jesus. There is no Jesus in this, Lucian said bitterly. There's just blood and revenge and hoping you get to the monster before he gets to you. He set his coffee down. So when I say I understand what you're feeling, I mean it. And when I say we're going to end him, I mean that too. Emery reached out, took his hand. His fingers were cold. We're going to finish this, she said. Yeah, we are. They sat in silence until the sun came up. Mpache. The warehouse looked exactly the same. Rust-streaked metal siding, broken windows, weeds pushing through cracked asphalt. Emery stood across the street staring at the place where her brother had bled out and felt the weight of 3 years crash down on her. You okay? Jonas asked. No. Good. Means you're smart. Lucian and Aaron were already inside, setting up cameras and positioning Aaron's insurance package. Nina was in a van 2 blocks away, monitoring the feeds. Dominic stood beside Emery, arms crossed, scanning the street. Castaro's people will scope the area first, he said. Make sure it's not a trap. Then he'll come in with his personal guard. Maybe 6, maybe 8. And we just wait? We wait. We watch. We record. Then the feds move in, and we disappear. Simple. Never simple. But it's the plan. Lucian's voice crackled in Emery's earpiece. Cameras are live. Aaron's set. We're good to go. Emery touched her ear. Copy. Dominic checked his watch. 20 minutes. They moved to a fire escape across the street, climbed to the 2nd floor, crouched behind a rusted railing with a clear view of the warehouse entrance, and waited. 15 minutes. 10. 5. Then headlights appeared at the end of the block. 2 black SUVs. Moving slow. Deliberate. They stopped in front of the warehouse. Doors opened. 4 men stepped out, armed, alert. They fanned out, checking the perimeter. Emery's pulse thundered in her ears. Here we go, Dominic murmured. The men disappeared inside the warehouse. 30 seconds passed. Then one of them emerged, gave a hand signal. The rear door of the 2nd SUV opened, and Vincent Castaro stepped out. Emery's hands curled into fists. He looked calm, relaxed, like he was walking into a business meeting, not a potential ambush. 2 more men flanked him, personal security, both carrying submachine guns. They walked into the warehouse. Nina, Lucian's voice said in Emery's ear, you getting this? Crystal clear, feeding it to the feds now. How long until they move? 5 minutes? Maybe 10. Copy. Emery watched the warehouse, waiting for the sound of sirens, for the cavalry to arrive. But the street stayed quiet. Too quiet. Then Dominic tensed. Something's wrong. What? Where's the rest of his crew? Castaro never travels with less than 10 men. Emery's stomach dropped. Maybe he's being cautious. Or maybe he knows. Before Emery could respond, the warehouse exploded. Not Aaron's charges, something bigger. The entire structure erupted in a ball of flame and debris. The shockwave hit like a physical blow, knocking Emery backward. Her ears went numb. Heat washed over her face. She staggered to the railing, looked down. The warehouse was gone. Just fire and smoke and twisted metal. Lucian! She screamed into her comm. Aaron! Static. Jonas! Somebody answer me! Nothing. Dominic grabbed her arm. We need to move now. They were inside, and now they're dead. We stay here. We join them. Move! He hauled her toward the fire escape ladder. Behind them, voices shouted. Footsteps pounded on pavement. Castaro's men. They weren't dead. because they'd never been inside. Emery's mind reeled. It was a trap. Castaro had known, and Lucien, Aaron, and Jonas had walked straight into it. Dominic pushed her down the ladder. They hit the ground and ran. Through an alley, over a chain-link fence, into the maze of Red Hook's industrial wasteland. Gunfire erupted behind them. Bullets sparked off metal, shattered brick. Emery ran until her lungs burned, until her legs felt like jelly, until she couldn't hear footsteps anymore. They collapsed behind a dumpster in an alley 3 blocks away. Dominic checked his weapon, cursed. "We're blown." "How?" Emery gasped. "How did he know?" "I don't know, but someone talked. Someone gave us up." Emery's mind spun. Nina, the only one who wasn't at the warehouse. Nina, who'd fed the information to the feds. Nina, who'd known the exact time and location. "It was Nina," Emery said. Dominic's eyes widened. "You sure?" "Who else? She's the only one who had all the details, the only one who wasn't there." Dominic pulled out his phone, tried to call Nina. No answer. He tried Lucien. Nothing. Fuck. He stood, peered around the dumpster. "We need to get off the street. Castaro's people will be sweeping the area." "Where do we go?" "I don't know, but we can't stay here." Emery's phone buzzed. She pulled it out. A text from an unknown number. "You should have stayed invisible, Ella." Her blood ran cold. A second text came through. An address. And below it, "Come alone, or everyone you care about dies." Emery showed Dominic the screen. He read it, swore viciously. "It's a trap. I know. You can't go." "I don't have a choice." "There's always a choice." Emery looked at him, really looked at him, saw the exhaustion, the grief, the weight of too many lost battles. "I'm tired of running," she said. "I'm tired of people dying because of me." "So you're just going to walk into Castaro's arms?" "I'm going to end this." She stood. Dominic grabbed her wrist. "You do this, you die." "Maybe, but at least I die trying." She pulled free and walked toward the street. Dominic called after her. "Ella!" She didn't look back, because if she did, she'd lose her nerve, and she couldn't afford that. Not anymore. Batimit. The address led to a building in Chinatown. Narrow, unremarkable. A dumpling shop on the ground floor. Emery walked through the front door. The shop was empty. Chairs stacked on tables, lights off. A door at the back stood open. She walked through it, up a flight of stairs, into a room with concrete walls and a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. Vincent Castaro sat at a table, hands folded, smiling. "Hello, Ella," he said. "I've been waiting for you." Behind him, 2 men stood with guns, and tied to a chair in the corner, bloodied and barely conscious, was Lucien. Emery's breath stopped. He was alive. "Surprised?" Castaro asked. "I told you, I don't leave threats alive, but I do enjoy making them suffer first." He gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Sit. We have a lot to discuss." Emery sat. Her hands didn't shake, her voice didn't waver. "What do you want?" Castaro's smile widened. "I want you to understand something. You can't beat me. You can't hurt me. You can't even touch me. I own this city, the police, the judges, the politicians, all of them." He leaned forward. "And now I own you." Emery met his eyes. "Then why am I still alive?" "Because I want you to watch." He nodded to one of the men. The man walked to Lucien, raised his gun, pressed it against Lucien's head. "No!" Emery screamed. She lunged forward. The second man grabbed her, slammed her back into the chair. Castaro held up a hand. "Not yet." The man with the gun stepped back. Lucien's eyes fluttered open. He looked at Emery, tried to speak. Couldn't. Castaro stood. "You see, Ella, I could kill you both right now. But where's the fun in that? I want you to live. I want you to carry the weight of everyone who died because you couldn't keep your mouth shut. Your brother, Detective Chen, Marcus. And soon, him." He pointed at Lucien. "So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to let you go. And you're going to disappear. Forever. And if I ever hear your name again, I'll kill everyone you've ever spoken to. Everyone you've ever looked at. Everyone." He walked to the door, stopped, looked back. "Oh. And Ella? Your friend Nina says hello." Then he was gone. The two men followed. The door slammed shut, locked from the outside. Emery ran to Lucian, untied the ropes binding him. He collapsed against her, breathing shallow. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Don't. Save your strength. It's over." "No, it's not." She looked around the room. No windows. One door, locked. They were trapped. And somewhere in the city, Vincent Castaro was walking free. Emery pressed her forehead against Lucian's. "We're not done," she said. "Not yet." But even as she said it, she wondered if she believed it. Because for the first time since this started, she had no plan, no backup, no hope, just a locked room, and a man who might not survive the night. The locked room smelled like blood and concrete. Emery cradled Lucian's head in her lap, her fingers pressed against the gash above his eyebrow, trying to slow the bleeding. His breathing came in shallow gasps. His eyes kept drifting closed. "Stay with me," she said. "Don't you fucking quit on me now." He tried to smile, failed. "Not quitting, just resting." "Rest later. We need to get out of here." "Door's locked." "I noticed." She looked around the room, bare concrete walls. No windows. One bulb hanging from a wire. The only furniture was the table and two chairs. Nothing sharp, nothing useful. Her phone was gone. Taken when Castaro's men had grabbed her in the alley. She hadn't even felt them do it. Lucian's hand moved weakly toward his jacket pocket. Emery reached in, pulled out his phone. The screen was cracked. Battery at 4%, but it still worked. "Who do I call?" she asked. "Dominic." She scrolled through Lucian's contacts, found Dominic's number, hit dial. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice answered. Not Dominic's. Nina's. "Hello, Ella." Emery's blood turned to ice. "Where's Dominic?" "Indisposed. But don't worry. He's alive. For now." Nina's voice was calm, pleasant, like they were discussing the weather. "You sold us out," Emery said. "I made a business decision. Castaro pays better than Lucian. And unlike your boyfriend there, Castaro actually wins. He killed Chen. He killed Marcus. Collateral damage. Unfortunate, but necessary." Emery's hand tightened around the phone. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to understand something. This was never about justice. It was never about your brother. It was about power, and you picked the losing side." "We're not done yet," Nina laughed. "Yes, you are. In about 10 minutes, that building you're in is going to be demolished. Gas leak, very tragic. 2 bodies in the rubble. The police won't even investigate." The line went dead. Emery stared at the phone. 10 minutes. She looked at Lucian. His eyes were barely open. "Did you hear that?" "Yeah." "Can you stand?" "Maybe." She helped him to his feet. He swayed, gripping the table for support. Blood dripped from his nose onto the concrete. "We need to get through that door," Emery said. "It's solid steel." "Then we make it not solid." She grabbed one of the chairs, swung it at the door with everything she had. The chair shattered. The door didn't budge. "Fuck!" She tried again with the second chair. Same result. Lucian leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "Aaron's insurance," he said. Emery looked at him. "What?" "His explosives. Before the warehouse. He gave me a backup charge. In case." "Where?" Lucian tapped his jacket. "Inside pocket." Emery reached in, found a small plastic package about the size of a deck of cards. Wires. A detonator. "This is enough to blow the door?" "Probably blow the whole room." "Great." "You know how to set it?" "No. Do you?" "Not really." Emery stared at the package in her hands. "So we're going to blow ourselves up trying to escape before we get blown up by Nina's demo team." "That's the plan." "This is insane." Lucian's hand found hers, squeezed weakly. "You got a better idea?" She didn't. Emery knelt by the door, examined the package. There were 2 wires, red and black. The detonator had a single button. She pressed the charge against the door's lock mechanism, used her belt to strap it in place. "How much time do we need to get clear?" she asked. 30 seconds. "Maybe." "And how big is this room?" 12 by 12. "So, not enough space." "Not even close." Emery stood, pulled Lucian toward the far corner. "Get behind the table. Flip it on its side." They shoved the table over. It was cheap metal, wouldn't stop shrapnel, but it was better than nothing. Emery crouched behind it, pulling Lucian down beside her. "You ready?" she asked. "No." "Me neither." She pressed the detonator button. Nothing happened. She pressed it again. Still nothing. "It's not—" The explosion cut her off. The world turned white. Sound ceased to exist. The concussive force picked Emery up and threw her against the wall. Her head cracked against concrete. Stars burst behind her eyes. Then silence. Ringing. Pain. She opened her eyes. The room was filled with smoke. The bulb had shattered. The only light came from a hole where the door used to be. A hole. They had a way out. Emery rolled onto her side. Every muscle screamed. Her ears felt like they were full of cotton. "Lucian?" She couldn't hear her own voice. She crawled across the floor, found him slumped against the overturned table. Blood ran from his ears, but his chest was moving. "Lucian!" She shook him. His eyes opened. He said something. She couldn't hear it. She grabbed his arm, pulled him to his feet, pointed at the hole. They staggered through it together. Into a hallway. Narrow. Dark. Stairs leading down. Emery half-carried Lucian down the steps. Her legs felt like rubber. Her vision swam. They burst out onto the street. Cold air hit her face. The sounds of the city rushed back. Car horns, voices, sirens in the distance. People stared. Two bloodied, soot-covered figures stumbling out of a building. Emery didn't care. She kept moving, dragging Lucian with her. Half a block, then a full block. Behind them, the building exploded. Not the room. The entire structure. Windows shattered. Fire erupted from every floor. The blast wave knocked them both to the ground. Emery covered her head as debris rained down. When it stopped, she looked back. The building was gone. Just fire and smoke and a pile of rubble. If they'd been inside, they'd be dead. Nina had been telling the truth about that much. Emery pulled Lucian into an alley, propped him against a wall. "Can you hear me?" she shouted. He nodded. "We need to move. Nina knows we're alive. Castaro knows we're alive. They'll send people." Lucian's mouth moved. She leaned closer. "Dominic," he rasped. "We need to find Dominic." "How? Nina has him." "She's bluffing. Dominic's too smart to get caught." "You sure about that?" "No." Emery pulled out Lucian's phone. Still clinging to 2% battery, she dialed Dominic's number. It rang and rang. Then a click. "Ella?" Relief flooded through her. "Dominic, where are you?" "Warehouse District near the Brooklyn Navy Yard." "Where the hell are you?" "Chinatown. Nina set us up. She's working for Castaro." A pause. "I know." "What?" "I figured it out about 20 minutes ago. Found messages on her laptop. She's been feeding him intel for months." Emery's vision blurred with rage. "Where is she now?" "I don't know, but I know where Castaro is." "Where?" "His club, Tribeca. He's meeting with his lieutenants, planning his next move." "How do you know?" "Because I'm looking at his calendar. Nina kept copies of everything." Emery's mind raced. "We're coming to you." "No. Too dangerous. You need to get out of the city." "Not happening." "Ella, we're ending this. Tonight." "Where are you exactly?" Dominic gave her an address. 20 minutes, she said, and ended the call. She looked at Lucian. "Can you walk?" "Can I walk or will I walk?" "Both." He pushed himself upright, swayed, steadied. "Let's go." Thoughts. They stole a car. Not stole exactly. Borrowed without asking. An old Honda Civic parked on a side street with the keys in the ignition. Some delivery driver's mistake. Emery drove. Lucian slumped in the passenger seat, pressing his jacket against the cut on his head. Traffic was heavy. The city never slept. Even at midnight, the streets were packed. Emery's hands gripped the wheel so hard her knuckles went white. Her mind churned through the last 72 hours. Every decision, every mistake, every body, Marcus, Chen, Aaron, Jonas, all dead. Because she'd thought she could fight a war with words and testimony. She'd been naive, but she wasn't naive anymore. The Brooklyn Navy Yard loomed ahead. Old brick warehouses converted into studios and workshops, mostly empty this time of night. Emery parked behind a building with broken windows and graffiti-tagged walls. killed the engine. Dominic emerged from the shadows. He carried a duffel bag over one shoulder and looked like he'd aged 10 years since she'd seen him last. "You look like shit," he said. "You too." He handed her the bag. "What's in here?" Guns, ammo, body armor. Everything Nina had stashed. Emery unzipped the bag. Inside were 2 pistols, several magazines, and 2 Kevlar vests. "This isn't enough to take on Castaro's entire crew," she said. "I know, that's why we're not taking on his crew." Dominic pulled out a tablet, showed her a blueprint. "This is Castaro's club. 4 floors, private rooms on the top floor, that's where he'll be, with maybe 6 guys, personal security." "How do we get in?" "Service entrance, back of the building, leads to the kitchen. From there, we take the staff elevator to the 4th floor." "What about cameras?" "I'll loop the feeds. They'll see empty hallways." "And when we get to the 4th floor?" Dominic's expression hardened. "Then we end this." Lucian leaned against the car, listening. His face was pale, but his eyes were clear. "We're not killing him," he said. Dominic turned. "The hell we're not. We're not murderers. Speak for yourself." "I'm serious. We kill him, we're no better than he is." "I don't care about being better. I care about him being dead." Emery stepped between them. "Enough. We're not arguing about this now." "Then when?" Dominic demanded. "After we have him cornered. Right now we focus on getting in." Dominic stared at her, then nodded. "Fine, but I'm not promising anything once we're face to face." "I'm not asking you to promise. I'm asking you to trust me." "Trust got Marcus killed." The words hit like a slap. Emery didn't flinch. "Trust is all we have left." Silence. Then Dominic grabbed the duffel bag and headed for the car. "Let's go." They parked 2 blocks from the club, changed into the body armor in the back seat, loaded the guns. Emery checked her pistol. 15 rounds, 1 in the chamber. She'd never fired a gun in her life. "Safety's here," Dominic said, pointing. "Trigger pull is about 5 pounds. Aim center mass. Don't stop shooting until the threat is down." "I don't want to kill anyone." "Then don't miss." He handed Lucian a gun. Lucian took it without comment. They moved through the alley behind the club. The service entrance was a metal door with a keypad lock. Dominic pulled out a small device, clipped it to the keypad. Numbers flickered across a screen. 10 seconds. The lock clicked. Dominic pushed the door open. They slipped inside. The kitchen was empty. Stainless steel counters, industrial ovens, the smell of grease and garlic. Voices drifted from the dining area. Music thumped through the walls. Dominic led them to the back. Found the service elevator, old, slow, big enough for 6 people. They stepped inside. Dominic pressed the button for the 4th floor. The doors closed. The elevator lurched upward. Emery's heart hammered. Sweat dripped down her spine beneath the Kevlar. "Remember," Lucian said quietly, "we go in fast. We control the room. We get Castaro talking." "And if he doesn't talk?" Dominic asked. "Then we make him." The elevator stopped. The doors opened. A hallway stretched ahead, plush carpet, dim lighting, expensive art on the walls. And at the end, a set of double doors. "That's it," Dominic whispered. They moved forward, slow, quiet. Emery's hand shook. She gripped the pistol tighter. They reached the doors. Dominic held up 3 fingers. 2. 1. He kicked the door open. They rushed inside. The room was large. Mahogany furniture, a wet bar in the corner, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. 6 men sat around a table. Vincent Castaro at the head. They all turned, reached for weapons. "Don't," Dominic said, his gun trained on Castaro. "Hands on the table, all of you." For a moment no one moved. Then Castaro smiled. "Lower your weapons," he said to his men. They hesitated. "Do it." They obeyed. Castaro leaned back in his chair, hands folded, completely relaxed. "Ella Brennan," he said. "You're persistent. I'll give you that." "Get up," Emery said. "Or what? You'll shoot me?" He gestured around the room. "You're outnumbered, outgunned. And even if you kill me, you'll never make it out of this building alive." "We're not here to kill you." "Then why are you here?" Lucian stepped forward. "We're here to offer you a deal." Castaro's eyebrows rose. "A deal?" "You walk away, retire, disappear, and we don't send everything we have on you to every federal agency in the country. You're bluffing. You have nothing. Lucian pulled out a flash drive, held it up. Financial records, offshore accounts, shell companies, every transaction you've made in the last 5 years, plus testimony from 15 people willing to put you at crime scenes. Testimony can be discredited. Not when it's corroborated by surveillance footage. Castaro's smile faltered, just for a second. Then it was back. Even if you had all that, it wouldn't matter. I own the prosecutors. I own the judges. Your evidence would disappear before it ever saw a courtroom. Maybe, Lucian said, but you'd spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, wondering when the next raid would come, when the next mole would flip, when your own people would sell you out. He stepped closer. Or you could walk away, right now, and live out your days on a beach somewhere, rich, alive, free. Castaro studied him. You really think I'd take that deal? I think you're smart enough to know when you're beaten. Castaro laughed. It was a cold sound. Beaten? By you? By a washed-up contractor and a waitress? He stood. I've been in this business for 30 years. I've survived wars, investigations, betrayals, and you think I'm going to roll over because you walked into my club with a flash drive? He looked at his men. Kill them. The room exploded into chaos. Castaro's men went for their guns. Dominic fired first. 2 shots. Center mass. 1 man went down. Emery dove behind a couch as bullets tore through the air. Wood splintered. Glass shattered. She came up firing. Her first shot went wide. Her second hit someone in the shoulder. The recoil shocked her. The noise was deafening. Lucian moved left, putting rounds into a man rushing him with a knife. Dominic advanced, methodical, putting down threats one by one. Then Emery saw him. Castaro, running for a side door. No! She screamed. She sprinted after him, crashed through the door into a narrow hallway. Castaro was 20 feet ahead, moving fast for a man his age. Emery raised her gun. Stop! He didn't. She fired, missed. The bullet punched a hole in the wall. Castaro yanked open a door, disappeared through it. Emery followed, into a stairwell. Footsteps echoed above her. He was going up. She took the stairs 2 at a time, her lungs burned. The Kevlar vest felt like it weighed 100 pounds. She burst through a door onto the roof. Wind whipped her hair. The city stretched out in every direction, a million lights. Castaro stood at the edge, hands on the railing, breathing hard. It's over, Emery said. There's nowhere to go. He turned. You think this is over? You think killing me changes anything? I'm not going to kill you. No. He reached into his jacket. Emery raised her gun. Don't. He pulled out a phone, held it up. 1 call, he said. That's all it takes. 1 call, and everyone you've ever cared about dies. Your old co-workers, your neighbors, that barista you smile at every morning. I don't have anyone left. Everyone has someone. His thumb hovered over the screen. Emery's finger tightened on the trigger. Put the phone down. Make me. For a moment, they stared at each other. Then the door behind Emery burst open. Lucian and Dominic rushed through. Castaro saw them, pressed the button. Too late, he said, and stepped backward off the roof. Emery lunged forward. Too slow. He fell. She reached the edge, looked down. Castaro's body lay on the pavement 6 stories below, broken, still, dead. Emery's legs gave out. She collapsed to her knees. Lucian was beside her in an instant. It's okay, he said. It's over. But Emery shook her head, because she'd seen the phone, seen him press the button. Somewhere in the city, his final message was being delivered. And whatever it said, it wasn't over. Not yet. Dominic's phone rang. He answered, listened. His face went pale. We need to move, he said. Now. Why? Because Castaro just sent a kill order to every crew he has, and the target is every location we've ever been, every safe house, every contact. He looked at Emery. He's scorching the earth. Even in death, he's taking everything with him. Emery stood. Her hands were steady now, her mind clear. Then we burn it all down first. Lucian stared at her. What? We have his records, his contacts, his operations. We send it everywhere. FBI, DEA, ATF, every news outlet in the country. We flood the zone. That'll start a war. Good. Let them tear each other apart. Dominic smiled. It was a hard smile. I like it. Lucian hesitated, then nodded. Do it. They ran. Back down the stairs, through the club, past bodies and broken glass, out into the street. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. They reached the car. Dominic took the wheel. Emery climbed in back with Lucian. As they pulled away, she looked back at the club, at the roof where Castaro had fallen, and she felt nothing, no victory, no relief, just exhaustion. And the knowledge that this wasn't the end, it was just the beginning of something bigger, something darker, something that would consume them all before it was through. Dominic drove them to a motel on the outskirts of Newark, the kind of place that rented by the hour and didn't ask questions. Inside the room, he set up his laptop. This is it, he said. Once I send this, there's no taking it back. Do it, Emery said. Dominic's fingers flew across the keyboard, uploading files, sending emails, posting to encrypted servers, every piece of evidence they had, every name, every location, every crime, all of it. Castaro's empire laid bare for the world to see. When it was done, Dominic sat back. It's out there. Lucian's phone started ringing, then Dominic's, then the room's landline. News alerts lit up their screens. The story was breaking everywhere. Within an hour, raids were happening across 3 states. Arrests, seizures, chaos. Emery watched it all unfold on the laptop screen and realized something. They'd won. Not cleanly, not without cost. But they'd won. Castaro was dead. His network was collapsing, and for the first time in 3 years, Emery could breathe. She walked outside, stood in the parking lot under flickering neon. Lucian joined her. You okay? He asked. I don't know. Fair enough. They stood in silence. Then Emery said, What happens now? Now, Lucian smiled. Now we disappear. New names, new lives, somewhere far from here. And if they come looking, they won't. We're ghosts. Emery looked at him. Really looked at him. At the man who'd dragged her into this war, who'd stood beside her through all of it, who'd become something more than an ally. Thank you, she said. For what? For not letting me stay invisible. Lucian took her hand. You were never invisible. You just needed a reason to fight. Behind them, Dominic emerged from the room. We've got movement, he said. Federal task force just hit Castaro's main warehouse. Found enough evidence to put away his entire crew. Good. There's more. Nina's been arrested, trying to cross into Canada. They're bringing her back. Emery felt a cold satisfaction. Good. Dominic hesitated. There's something else. The feds want to talk to you. Protective custody, witness protection, the whole deal. Emery looked at Lucian. He squeezed her hand. Your choice. She thought about it. About Danny. About the last 3 years. About the woman she used to be and the woman she'd become. Tell them no, she said. You sure? I'm done hiding. I'm done running. If they want a statement, they can send someone to me. Dominic nodded. I'll let them know. He went back inside. Emery and Lucian stood under the neon lights and watched the city burn in the distance. Sirens, smoke, the chaos of an empire collapsing. It's beautiful, Emery said. In a terrible way. Yeah. She leaned against him, and for the first time since this all started, she felt something like peace. Not happiness, not yet, but peace. The storm was passing, and on the other side, maybe, just maybe, there was a life worth living, a life without fear, without ghosts, without looking over her shoulder every second of every day. Come on, Lucian said. Let's get out of here. They walked back to the car. The night stretched ahead, full of possibility, full of danger. But for once, Emery wasn't afraid. She was ready for whatever came next. The motel room smelled like old carpet and disinfectant. Dawn crept through the gaps in the curtains, painting thin lines of gray across the walls. Emery sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her hands. They were clean now. She'd scrubbed them 3 times in the bathroom sink, but she could still feel the weight of the gun. Still see Castaro stepping backward off that roof. Lucian sat at the small table, laptop open, monitoring news feeds. His face was drawn, the cut above his eyebrow held together with butterfly bandages. He hadn't slept. Neither had she. Dominic paced by the window, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in low tones to someone Emery couldn't hear. The television played silently in the corner. Breaking news, federal raids across New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Castaro's network crumbling in real time. Arrests, seizures, chaos. They'd done it, and it felt like nothing. Dominic ended his call, turned to face them. That was my contact at the Bureau. They've taken 43 people into custody in the last 6 hours. More coming. They're calling it the largest organized crime bust in a decade. Good, Lucian said without looking up. There's more. They found Nina at a border crossing in Vermont. She's singing like a canary, giving up everything she knows. Emery's jaw tightened. What about the kill order Castaro sent? Already tracked down. Federal agents intercepted most of the crews before they could act. A few slipped through, but they're being hunted. So it's over. Dominic hesitated. Almost. Emery looked up sharply. Almost? There's one loose end, Castaro's second in command, guy named Marco DeSantis. He wasn't at the club last night, and he didn't get picked up in the raids. Where is he? Unknown, but he's dangerous. Former military, loyal to Castaro, and he's got access to resources. Lucian closed the laptop. He'll come for us. Probably. When? Hard to say. Could be days. Could be hours. Emery stood. Then we don't wait. We find him first. Lucian shook his head. No, we're done. We've done enough. Done? Emery's voice rose. Marcus is dead. Chen is dead. Aaron and Jonas are dead. And you want to just walk away? I want us to survive. We don't get to survive if Marco's still out there hunting us. She's right, Dominic said. We finish this now, or we spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders. Lucian stood, his chair scraping against the floor. This isn't a mission anymore. This is revenge. Maybe, Emery said, but it's also survival. She walked to the window, looked out at the parking lot. A few cars, a dumpster. The highway beyond. I'm tired, Lucian. I'm tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of being afraid. If Marco wants a fight, I'd rather have it now. On my terms. Silence. Then Lucian said quietly, And if you die? Then I die fighting, not cowering in some motel room waiting for a bullet. Dominic pulled up something on his phone. I've got a lead. One of Nina's files mentioned a property DeSantis uses. A warehouse in Staten Island. Off the books. No official records. Could be a trap, Lucian said. Everything's a trap at this point. Emery turned from the window. Then we set our own one. They spent the next 4 hours planning. Dominic pulled blueprints from city records. The warehouse was old. 3 stories. Multiple entry points. A maze of offices and storage areas. If Marco's there, he won't be alone, Dominic said. Figure 3 to 5 men. Armed. Alert. We go in quiet, Lucian said. Recon first. If he's there, we call it into the feds. And if the feds don't get there in time, Emery asked, then we improvise. They loaded up. Guns, vests, flashlights, everything they had left from Dominic's stash. Emery checked her pistol. 15 rounds. She'd fired 4 the night before. 11 left. Enough. They drove to Staten Island in silence. The city gave way to industrial sprawl. Warehouses and shipping yards. Rusted fences and empty lots. The warehouse sat at the end of a dead-end street. No other buildings nearby. No witnesses. Perfect for an ambush. Dominic parked 3 blocks away. They approached on foot, moving through the shadows, sticking to cover. The warehouse loomed ahead. Windows dark. No cars in the lot. No visible security. Too quiet. Lucian raised a fist. They stopped. He pointed to himself, then to the east side. Pointed to Dominic, then to the west. Pointed to Emery, then to the front. She nodded. They split up. Emery moved toward the main entrance, her heart hammering. The gun felt heavy in her hands. Her breath came in short, controlled bursts. She reached the door, tried the handle, locked. She looked around, found a side window, broken, boarded up with plywood. She pried the board loose, slipped inside. The warehouse was dark. The smell of oil and dust thick in the air. Machinery hulked in the shadows. Conveyor belts, forklifts, rows of empty shelves. Emery moved deeper inside, gun raised, sweeping corners. A sound. Footsteps. She froze. The footsteps grew closer. She pressed herself against a concrete pillar, held her breath. A figure emerged from the darkness. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving with military precision. Marco DeSantis. He hadn't seen her yet. Emery's finger moved to the trigger. Then a voice crackled in her earpiece. "I've got eyes on 2 more, 2nd floor, east side." Lucian. Marco stopped, turned, like he'd heard something. Emery didn't move, didn't breathe. Marco's hand went to his hip, drew a weapon, a pistol with a suppressor. He scanned the area. His eyes swept past her hiding spot, then stopped. Came back. Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then Marco raised his gun. Emery dove. The suppressed shot hissed past her head. Concrete chipped behind her. She came up firing. 2 shots, both wide. Marco moved. Fast. Disappearing behind a forklift. Emery ran, zigzagging between machinery. Her lungs burned. More shots, suppressed but deadly. Metal pinged. Sparks flew. She slid behind a steel drum, pressed her back against it. Her earpiece crackled. "Emery, sit rep. Contact. Main floor. Hold position. We're coming to you." Another shot, closer this time. Marco was moving, flanking her. She couldn't stay here. Emery broke from cover, sprinted toward a stairwell. Bullets chased her. One caught the railing inches from her hand. She hit the stairs, took them 2 at a time. Burst through a door onto the 2nd floor. Offices. Hallways. Doors on either side. She ducked into the first room. Empty. A desk. Filing cabinets. A window overlooking the parking lot. Footsteps in the hall. Multiple sets. Marco wasn't alone. Emery crouched behind the desk, controlled her breathing, listened. The footsteps stopped outside the door. Silence. Then the door exploded inward. 2 men rushed in, guns sweeping. Emery fired from behind the desk. The first man went down. The second spun toward her. She fired again, hit him in the leg. He dropped. She was up and moving before he hit the ground. Out the door, down the hall, more gunfire behind her. She turned a corner, saw Lucian at the far end. "Go!" he shouted. He laid down, suppressing fire. Emery ran past him. They moved together, back to back, clearing rooms, advancing. Dominic's voice crackled in their ears. "3rd floor is clear. No sign of Marco." "He's here," Lucian said. "1st or 2nd floor." They descended a different stairwell, moved into a large open area. The main warehouse floor, shadows everywhere. Too many places to hide. Emery's ears strained, every sound amplified. The hum of distant traffic, the creak of metal settling, her own heartbeat. Then movement. High. Above them, catwalk. Marco stood there, silhouetted against a broken skylight, gun aimed down. "Drop it!" Emery shouted. Marco smiled. "You first!" He fired. Emery and Lucian scattered. The bullet sparked off concrete where they'd been standing. Lucian returned fire. Marco ducked behind a railing. Emery ran for the stairs leading to the catwalk. Lucian kept Marco pinned. She took the stairs fast, legs pumping, vest heavy, reached the top. The catwalk stretched ahead. Narrow, metal grating, a long drop to the concrete below. Marco was at the far end. Reloading. Emery raised her gun. "It's over, Marco." He looked up, smiled again. "Is it?" He slammed a fresh magazine home, raised his weapon. They fired at the same time. Emery felt something punch her chest. The Kevlar caught it. But the impact knocked her backward. She hit the railing. Pain exploded through her ribs. Marco advanced, gun trained on her head. "Castaro was right about you. You should have stayed invisible." Emery's hand scrabbled for her gun. It had fallen. 3 feet away. Too far. Marco stopped. Point-blank range. "Tell your brother I said hello." A shot rang out, but not from Marco's gun. He jerked, stumbled. Blood bloomed on his shoulder. Behind him, Dominic stood at the opposite end of the catwalk, rifle raised. Marco spun, fired wildly. Dominic dropped behind cover. Emery lunged for her gun, grabbed it, came up shooting. 2 rounds. Center mass. Marco staggered, fell against the railing. It groaned, bent, then snapped. Marco went over the side, fell 20 feet, hit the concrete with a sound Emery would never forget. Silence. Emery stood there, shaking, staring down at Marco's broken body. Lucian appeared beside her. "You okay?" She nodded, couldn't speak. Dominic descended from the opposite stairs, walked over to Marco, checked for a pulse. "He's gone." Emery sank to her knees. It was over, really over. All the running, all the fear, all the death. Done. Lucian helped her to her feet. "Come on, we need to go before the police show up." They left through a back exit, climbed into the car, drove away as sirens wailed in the distance. Tongue. 3 weeks later. Emery sat in a coffee shop in Portland, Oregon. Rain streaked the windows. The Pacific Northwest version of the storm that had started this whole thing. But different, quieter. She wore jeans and a sweater. Her hair was shorter, dyed brown, no makeup, just another face in the crowd. She'd chosen Portland because it was far from New York, far from the ghosts, far from everything. Lucian sat across from her reading a newspaper. He'd grown a beard, changed his style. He looked like a college professor, not a man who'd spent the last month dismantling a criminal empire. "Says here the trials are starting next month," he said. 47 defendants. Nina's testifying against all of them. Good for her. "You don't sound convinced." "I'm not. She'll probably get a deal, reduced sentence, witness protection." "Probably." Emery sipped her coffee. It was good, better than anything at Sal's. "You ever think about going back?" Lucian asked. "To New York?" "Yeah." "No. Nothing there for me anymore." "What about closure?" Emery smiled, bitter. "I got my closure on that rooftop." Lucian folded the newspaper. "So what now?" "Now?" Emery looked out the window. "Now I figure out who Emery Vale is when she's not running." "And who is she?" "I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out." Her phone buzzed. A text from Dominic. "Made it to Vancouver. Weather's shit, but the beer's good. Stay safe." She smiled. Typed back. "You too." Dominic had disappeared 2 weeks ago, said he had business in Canada. Emery suspected he was hunting down the last remnants of Castaro's network, tying up loose ends. She didn't ask. Some things were better left unknown. Lucian stood. "I'm going to grab another coffee. You want anything?" "I'm good." He walked to the counter. Emery watched him go. Thought about the man he'd been when they first met, cold, controlled, driven by revenge. He was different now, softer, or maybe just tired. She understood that. Her phone buzzed again. Not a text this time. An email. From an address she didn't recognize. She opened it. It was a photo. Danny, young, smiling, standing outside their childhood home in Bay Ridge. Beneath it, a message. "He would have been proud of you." No signature. But Emery knew who it was from. Someone who'd been watching. Someone who'd known her brother. Someone who understood. She stared at the photo for a long time, then closed the email and deleted it. Because the past was the past. And she was done living there. Lucian returned with his coffee. "You okay?" "Yeah." "You sure?" She looked at him, really looked at him, at the scars, the exhaustion, the weight he carried. "We're survivors," she said. "That's all we'll ever be." "Is that enough?" Emery thought about it, about Marcus and Chen and Aaron and Jonas and everyone else who didn't make it, about the cost of survival, about the price of justice. It has to be. Lucian sat down. They drank their coffee in comfortable silence. Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing the streets clean, erasing footprints, making everything new. 6 months later, Emery stood in front of a small apartment building in Portland's Pearl District. The building was old but well-maintained, brick facade, flower boxes in the windows. She climbed the stairs to the second floor, unlocked the door to apartment 2B. Inside was a life she'd built from scratch. A couch, a bookshelf, a small kitchen with actual food in the fridge, photos on the wall, none of them from before, all new memories, new friends, new experiences. She worked at a bookstore now. Nothing glamorous. But it was honest work, and she liked being around stories, other people's stories, not her own. The apartment felt like home, not the place she'd grown up, not the studio in Brooklyn where she'd hidden for 3 years. Home. She set down her bag, kicked off her shoes, put water on for tea. Her phone rang. Lucian. They talked once a week, sometimes more. He was in Seattle now, working as a consultant, helping small businesses with security. He said it was boring. Emery thought he liked boring. Hey, she said. Hey yourself. How's the bookstore? Good. We're doing a reading tonight. Local author. Mystery novel. Fitting. I thought so. A pause. Then Lucian said, I got a call today from the DA's office in New York. They want us to testify at Nina's trial. Emery's chest tightened. When? Next month. Are you going? I don't know. Are you? Emery walked to the window, looked out at the city, the gray sky, the distant mountains. I don't think so. They said it would help, put her away for a long time. She's already going away. They don't need me for that. Maybe not, but it might give you closure. I don't need closure. I need to move forward. Silence. Then Lucian said softly, Okay. I'll tell them no. You should go if you want to. I don't want to. Not without you. Emery smiled. We're a mess, aren't we? The worst. But we're alive. Yeah, we are. They talked for a few more minutes. About nothing. About everything. When they hung up, Emery felt lighter, like a weight she'd been carrying had finally lifted. She made her tea, sat on the couch, opened a book, and for the first time in years she read for pleasure, not to escape, not to distract herself, just to enjoy a story. 1 year later, Emery stood at the edge of a lake in Oregon wine country. The water was still, reflecting the mountains and the sky. The sun was setting, painting everything gold. Lucian stood beside her. They'd driven up for the weekend, a break from the city, from routine, from everything. It's beautiful, she said. Yeah. You ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't warned you that night? Lucian considered. Every day. And I'd be dead, and you'd still be hiding. So we saved each other. Something like that. Emery reached out, took his hand, he squeezed back. They stood there as the sun dipped below the horizon, watching the light fade, watching the stars emerge. I got a letter yesterday, Lucian said, from Dominic. Where's he now? Mexico. Says he's retiring, opening a bar. Emery laughed. I can't picture Dominic retired. Me neither, but he says he's tired of fighting. I understand that. Do you? Emery thought about it, about the woman she'd been, the waitress, the ghost, about the woman she'd become. I'm not tired of fighting, she said. I'm just tired of fighting the wrong battles. What's the right battle? Living, building something, being more than what happened to me. Lucian nodded. I like that. They walked back to the car as darkness settled over the lake, drove back to Portland in comfortable silence. And when they reached Emery's apartment, Lucian didn't leave. He stayed. Because somewhere between the violence and the chaos and the blood, they'd found something neither had been looking for. Not love, not yet, but possibility. And that was enough. 2 years later, Emery sat in a courtroom in Manhattan. The trial had been going for 3 weeks. Nina Volkov versus the people of New York. Emery hadn't planned on coming, but Lucian had asked her to, just once, just to see it through. So she'd flown across the country, sat in the gallery, watched as witness after witness testified about Castaro, about the network, about the corruption, about the people who'd died. Nina sat at the defense table looking smaller than Emery remembered, older, broken. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty. On all counts. The judge sentenced her to 25 years. No parole. Emery watched Nina's face as the sentence was read, saw the hope drain from her eyes, saw her realize that the deal she'd cut hadn't saved her, and Emery felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. just emptiness. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed. Questions shouted. Emery and Lucian slipped away through a side exit. They walked through the city, past the places Emery used to know. The diner where it had all started was gone, replaced by a high-end coffee shop. "You okay?" Lucian asked. "I thought I'd feel something," Emery said, seeing her sentenced, "but I don't." "Maybe that's good. Maybe it means you've moved on. Or maybe it means I'm broken." "You're not broken. You're healing. There's a difference." They stopped at a park, sat on a bench, watched people pass by. Tourists, businessmen, families, all living their lives, unaware of the war that had been fought in their city. "I'm glad you came," Lucian said. "Me too." "You ready to go home?" Emery thought about Portland, about the apartment, the bookstore, the life she'd built. "Yeah, I'm ready." They flew back that night, and when Emery walked into her apartment, she felt it settle around her like a blanket. This was home, not New York, not the past. Here, now, with the man who'd pulled her out of the darkness, and the future they were building together. 5 years later. Emery stood behind the counter of her own bookstore. She'd bought it 2 years ago when the previous owner retired, renamed it Second Chapters. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Business was good. She hosted readings, book clubs, writing workshops. The community had embraced her. She'd become part of the fabric of the neighborhood. No longer invisible, but no longer hunted either. Just Emery. The bell above the door chimed. Lucian walked in carrying 2 coffees. "Thought you might need this," he said. "You're a lifesaver." He kissed her, quick, casual. The kind of kiss that comes from years of comfort. They'd gotten married the year before. Small ceremony, just a few friends, no family. Neither of them had any left. But they'd built their own. A family of survivors. Of people who understood what it meant to start over. "Busy day?" Lucian asked. "Not bad. Sold 6 copies of that new thriller, and Mrs. Patterson finally finished War and Peace. That only took her 2 years. She's thorough." They laughed. It was an easy laugh. The kind that came from shared history, from battles fought and won, from knowing someone at their worst and loving them anyway. Emery's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. She tensed. Old habits. Lucian noticed. "You okay?" She opened the text. It was a photo. A grave. Daniel Brennan. Beloved brother. And beside the headstone, fresh flowers. Beneath the photo, a message. "He's not forgotten. Neither are you. No signature." Emery stared at the screen. "What is it?" Lucian asked. She showed him. He read it, frowned. "You know who sent it?" "No, but I think it's someone who was there. Someone who knew Danny." "Should we be worried?" Emery thought about it, then shook her head. "No. I think it's just someone making sure we remember." "Do you? Remember?" "Every day." She deleted the message, put the phone away, and went back to work. Because that's what survivors did. They remembered. But they didn't let the past consume them. They lived. And they built something beautiful from the ashes. 10 years later. Emery sat on the porch of a house in the Oregon countryside. The property was small, 5 acres, a vegetable garden, chickens in a coop, a view of the mountains. She and Lucian had moved out of the city 3 years ago, wanted something quieter, something peaceful, a place to grow old. Lucian was inside, making dinner. She could smell garlic and tomatoes, hear him humming off-key. She smiled. Life had become simple, beautiful in its simplicity. They still got calls sometimes, from Dominic, from old contacts, checking in, making sure they were okay. They always were. The bookstore was thriving under new management. Emery still consulted, helped with inventory and events, but mostly she just lived. Tended the garden, read books, watched the sunrise and set over the mountains, and tried to make peace with the woman she'd been, the woman who'd lost everything, and found herself in the process. Her phone rang. She almost didn't answer, but something made her look. Blocked number. She answered. "Hello?" Silence. Then a voice she hadn't heard in 10 years. "Ella." Her breath caught. It wasn't possible. The voice belonged to someone who was dead. Who is this? It's me. It's Danny. Emery's vision blurred. That's not funny. Who is this really? I know you don't believe me, but it's true. I'm alive, and I need your help. Emery's hands shook. It couldn't be. She'd seen the body, attended the funeral, mourned for 10 years. Prove it, she whispered. The night before I died, we met at Murphy's diner. You ordered pancakes. I had scrambled eggs. And I told you I was in trouble, that I'd seen something I shouldn't have, and you told me to go to the police. Emery's knees buckled. She sat down hard on the porch steps. Those words. That conversation. No one knew about it. No one except her and Danny. How? I faked my death. Had to. Castaro was going to kill me, so I staged it, made it look real, and I've been in hiding ever since. Why are you calling now? Because he's back. Who? Castaro. He's alive, and he's coming for you. The world tilted. Emery's mind raced. Castaro was dead. She'd seen him fall. But if Danny was alive, if Danny had faked his death, could Castaro have done the same? Where are you? She asked. I can't tell you over the phone, but I need you to meet me, tomorrow, alone. I'm not doing anything until I know this is real. It's real, Ella, I swear. And if you don't come, we're both dead. The line went dead. Emery sat there, phone in hand, staring at nothing. Behind her, the screen door opened. Lucian stepped out. Everything okay? Emery looked up at him, at the life they'd built, at the peace they'd found, and felt it all slipping away. No, she said quietly. I don't think it is. Lucian's expression hardened. What happened? Emery stood, looked him in the eye, and said the words she never thought she'd say. My brother's alive, and the war isn't over, Shakates. But that's a story for another time. For now, Emery stood on that porch, the weight of the past crashing back down on her shoulders, and made a choice. She could ignore the call, delete the number, pretend it never happened, go back to her quiet life, her garden, her husband, her peace. Or she could face it, one last time. She looked at Lucian. I have to go. I know. You don't have to come with me. Yes, I do. She smiled. Because of course he did. They'd survived a war together. They'd survive whatever came next. Together. Emery took Lucian's hand, and together they walked back inside. To pack. To prepare. To face the ghosts one more time. Not because they wanted to, but because some battles never truly end. They just pause, waiting for the next storm. And when that storm came, Emery Vale would be ready. Not as a waitress, not as a victim, but as a survivor, a fighter. A woman who'd been through hell and came out the other side, and who would do it again if she had to. Because that's what survivors do. They endure, they adapt, they fight. And they never, ever give up. No matter the cost, no matter the pain, no matter how many times the past comes back to haunt them, they keep moving forward, into the light or into the darkness. Wherever the road leads, together, always together. The end. Thank you for staying with this story until the very end. What started with rain and a whispered warning became a journey of survival, vengeance, and ultimately, redemption. Emery Vale learned that sometimes the only way to escape your past is to face it head on. That survival isn't about staying invisible. It's about choosing when to be seen. And that the greatest battles aren't always fought with guns and explosions, but with the quiet courage to keep living when everything tells you to give up. If this story reached you, wherever you are in the world, drop a comment with your city. Let me know how far Emery's journey traveled. And remember, sometimes the smallest choice, a single warning, a single act of courage, can rewrite everything. Stay safe out there.